All right, buckle up, everybody. We're diving deep into Luke chapter 20.
Oh yeah, this one is a roller coaster.
Talk about tension. It's like, one of those epic movies where the hero walks into a room and everyone's just glaring at him, ready to pounce.
Well, Luke sets this scene so vividly in Jerusalem just a few days before the crucifixion. Jesus is teaching, and the religious leaders are all circling him like, well, let's just say they're not there for a friendly chat.
So imagine this. The temple's packed. People everywhere. Jesus is teaching.
And bam, out of nowhere, here come the chief priests, the scribes, and the elders.
It's like the ultimate showdown.
Totally. They basically demand to know, by what authority are you doing all this? Who gave you the right? You got to remember, these are the religious elite.
The big dogs.
Yeah, and they see Jesus as a threat to their whole system, their power, everything.
So what does Jesus do? I mean, does he back down?
He does not.
Nope, not our Jesus.
He throws them a curveball asking about John the Baptist. Was John's authority from heaven or from people?
It's brilliant, really. Why would he do that?
It's a trap,
Yeah.
a genius trap. Think about it. If they say John's authority was from God, well, then that validates Jesus.
Right, because John pointed right at Jesus. Behold, the Lamb of God.
Exactly. But if they say John was just some guy with, human authority, then they risk infuriating the crowds.
People love John the Baptist.
Absolutely.
It's like he's playing 4D chess while they're stuck in checkers.
That's a great way to put it.
So what do?
Well, they squirm. They can't answer.
And Jesus just looks at them and basically says, fine, I won't tell you about my authority either.
Mic drop.
I love it. Round one goes to Jesus.
Absolutely.
But man, the religious leaders are fuming.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when Jesus just drops this bombshell of a parable. It's the parable of the wicked tenants.
Oh, yeah. This one is powerful.
And I think it speaks to anyone who's ever felt betrayed or let down.
It's a story full of imagery. So picture this. A landowner. He plants a vineyard, leases it out, and then, goes away. When it's time to collect the fruit, he sends his servants.
But do they get the fruit? No.
Oh, no. The tenants beat them up, send them away empty-handed.
Shady, right. But it gets worse.
Yeah. The owner keeps sending more servants.
And each one is treated even worse.
Finally, he sends his son. He's thinking, surely they'll respect him.
This is my son. They'll listen to him.
Exactly, but you can guess what happens.
Oh, yeah.
They kill him.
Brutal. They're hoping to just take over the whole vineyard.
Yep. So Jesus turns to the crowd and asks, what will the owner do to these tenants?
And what do they say?
He'll destroy those tenants and give the vineyard to someone else.
I mean, the symbolism here is pretty clear, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Crystal clear. The vineyard, that's Israel. The owner, that's God.
And the servants?
The prophets.
And the son?
Well, that's Jesus, of course.
Wow.
So it's a direct indictment of the religious leaders.
Who are, let's be honest, rejecting God's message.
And they're even plotting against his son.
Luke even tells us that they knew Jesus was talking about them.
They did.
They wanted to arrest him right there, but, well, they were too afraid of the crowd.
The people seem to be on Jesus' side at this point.
So they try a different tactic, realizing, okay, a direct confrontation's not going to work.
So they try to trap him with the tricky question about taxes.
Ah, taxes, the old tax dilemma.
It's a huge point of contention. Israel's under Roman occupation, so paying taxes to Caesar, well, it's a big deal.
They're trying to get Jesus to pick a side. And no matter what he says, he's going to alienate somebody.
Right. If he says, yes, pay your taxes, he looks unpatriotic.
And if he says, no, don't pay taxes, he's inciting rebellion.
It's a classic no-win situation.
So what does Jesus do? He asks for a Roman coin, and he points out Caesar's image on it.
And then he delivers that line for the ages.
Oh, yeah. Give to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's. It's pure brilliance.
It really is. He's acknowledging civic obligations while reminding everyone that ultimately your allegiance belongs to God.
It's a quote that is echoed throughout history. People are still debating it today.
Yeah, where do you draw that line?
It really makes you think. Where do you draw the line between your responsibilities to the government and your faith? How do you navigate those choices?
Big question.
And as you're pondering that, well, guess what? We're about to meet another group who wants to challenge Jesus.
Oh boy, here we go again.
Enter the Sadducees. They are the ultimate skeptics.
Oh yeah.
And they deny the resurrection. So they come up with this this wild scenario.
Oh yeah, it's a doozy.
About a woman who marries 7 brothers, one after another.
And each one dies. Childless.
So they ask Jesus, In the resurrection, whose wife will she be?
It's a riddle, the resurrection riddle.
They're trying to make the whole idea of resurrection just seem
Oh yeah, resurrection. Well, explain this.
but as usual, they underestimated Jesus.
They did, but Jesus, oh, he doesn't miss a beat.
No, he doesn't.
He explains that their whole question, it's based on a misunderstanding
Of what?
of the resurrected state. Marriage, he says, it's an earthly thing.
It doesn't apply in heaven.
Exactly. It's not a heavenly institution. He says those who are resurrected, they're like angels.
Neither marrying nor dying.
Right. So he's shifting their whole focus,
From earthly to the eternal.
which, seems to be a theme in Luke 20.
It does. And he doesn't stop there.
Oh, no.
He uses scripture. He reminds them that God, when talking to Moses, identified himself as the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Who were all dead at that time.
Right. So he's making a point. If God is the God of the living,
Not the God of the dead.
then even those who have died, they must still exist in some way.
That's the argument. Subtle but powerful one.
It silences the Sadducees. But just when you think things have calmed down, Jesus throws another curveball.
He does, doesn't he?
This time, he turns to the scribes, the experts in religious law, and he asks them a question that gets to the heart of who the Messiah really is.
This is a big one.
He asks, how can the Messiah be both David's son and David's Lord?
It sounds simple, but it's so profound.
It really challenges their understanding of the Messiah.
It does. On the surface, it's a reference to Psalm 110, where David actually calls the Messiah his Lord. But Jesus is hinting at something much deeper here.
About the Messiah's divine nature.
Exactly. He's suggesting that the Messiah is more than just a human descendant.
He's also the eternal Lord.
Worthy of worship. This totally challenges their limited view of the Messiah as just a political liberator.
It's a lot to take in.
It would have been mind-blowing for them at the time.
It's still mind-blowing.
Absolutely.
But Luke 20 isn't just about these intellectual debates.
No.
It's also about the heart.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the final part of this section,
Okay.
where Jesus turns to his disciples and issues this really stark warning about the scribes.
The same guys who've been giving him such a hard time?
Yeah. He's warning his disciples, and by extension us, about the dangers of hypocrisy.
Of putting outward appearances above inward transformation.
He really goes after them. He condemns their love of public recognition, their exploitation of the vulnerable, their obsession with looking pious while their hearts are far from God.
It's a tough message, but an important one.
It's a reminder that true faith, it's about more than just saying the right things or doing the right rituals.
It goes so much deeper than that.
So how do we cultivate that inner transformation? How do we move beyond the superficial and live a life that's truly aligned with our values?
Well, I think it starts with honesty. With ourselves. Taking a good, hard look at why we do the things we do.
Are we trying to please God, or are we just seeking approval from other people?
It's a question we all need to ask ourselves.
And amidst all this talk about hypocrisy and warnings, there's also this beautiful moment of hope in Luke 20.
Yes.
After Jesus silences the Sadducees with his explanation of the resurrection.
Yeah.
Some of the experts in the law actually acknowledge him.
They say, "Teacher, you have spoken well."
It's a small moment, but it's significant. It shows that even among those who oppose Jesus, there are those who are open to his message.
Who recognize truth when they hear it.
It's like this little crack in the wall of resistance, a little glimmer of light,
A reminder that God's grace is always at work.
even in the most unexpected places.
It gives me hope.
Me too. So while Luke 20 is a chapter with a lot of challenges, it also offers encouragement.
Yes, it does.
It reminds us that God's truth will always prevail.
And that even those who seem most resistant to his message can be touched by his grace.
It's a powerful reminder to live authentically, to let our actions match our words, and to seek a deeper kind of righteousness, one that goes beyond outward appearances.
And touches the very core of who we are.
Okay, so parables. They're more than just stories, right?
Oh yeah, way more. They work on so many levels. Like, you hear the story, seems simple enough.
But then there's this whole other layer underneath.
Right? Exactly. Deeper meanings start to unfold.
It's like those optical illusions where you see one thing and then, bam, something completely different.
You got it. And Luke 20, oh man, Jesus is a master at this. Like, with the parable of the wicked tenants.
We talked about that one.
Yeah, on the surface, just a landowner, some bad renters.
Oh, underneath.
A powerful message about the religious leaders rejecting God, plotting against his son.
And because it's a parable, it's subversive.
Right. He's not directly attacking them, but he's making them see themselves.
Like he's holding up a mirror. Is this who you really want to be?
That's the genius of parables. They get past all our defenses, straight to the heart.
Makes you examine your motives.
Your values, your relationship with God, big stuff.
And it's not just the wicked tenants. Remember the Sadducees? With that question about the woman and her 7 husbands.
Oh, yeah, the resurrection riddle.
Jesus' answer, that's kind of a parable
I
too.
think so.
Yeah, he says in the resurrection, people are like angels, no marrying or dying.
He's painting a picture.
Exactly. Of a reality so different from what we know here.
It's almost like he's saying you can't understand heaven with an earthbound mind.
Got to think bigger.
That's what parables do, stretch our imagination, challenge what we think we know, point us towards something so much greater.
So it's more than just information. It's about being transformed.
Changing how we see the world.
And that's really at the heart of what Jesus is saying. He's not just teaching facts, he wants to change us.
Make us more like him.
And parables are his tools. Like he plants these seeds.
And those seeds can grow into something amazing.
But they need the right conditions to flourish.
Fertile soil, sunlight, water.
So we need to do our part, make our hearts receptive.
Absolutely. It starts with humility, being willing to say, I don't know everything.
Open mind, letting go of our assumptions.
And really paying attention to the details, the language Jesus uses.
It's like those Where's Waldo pictures. Gotta look closely to find the hidden stuff.
Ah, that's a good one. And the discovery shouldn't end when the story's over.
The parable keeps working on you.
Exactly. You reflect on it, apply it to your life.
It changes how you act, how you treat people.
It changes everything. And that's when the transformation really happens.
Well, we've explored a lot in Luke 20. We've talked about those challenges to Jesus' authority, his parables, those warnings about hypocrisy.
Yeah, a lot packed into one chapter.
But through it all, there's this sense of hope,
Absolutely.
pointing us toward a different kind of kingdom.
A kingdom of truth, justice, love.
It's been a journey, and like any good journey, it leaves us with more questions than answers.
It does. More to think about, more to live out.
So keep reflecting on Luke 20. Let it challenge you, inspire you.
Let those parables spark your imagination, deepen your understanding of God's kingdom.
And never forget that real faith, it's about transformation from the inside out.
That leads to a life of love, service, justice.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Until next time, keep seeking truth.